Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SIG Node meeting on February 4th, 2025. We're going to start off by continuing with KEP review. I'm hoping to only spend like half of the meeting doing this. We'll see, because we have a number of other items. So I want to, so let's try to get through it efficiently. Unfortunately, I don't really super remember exactly where we left off. Sorting was a little bit different. I was sorting by age, I know that. So we got most of the way through, I believe we got through alpha steps, and then there were a handful of, let's see, I think we had, I can't remember if we had made it to any of the beta ones, but I'm trying to read these. I think we're probably
I don't know how you thought last time. Can you hear me, Peter?
Yes, I can.
But last time, the last item we talk about is sidecar container related.
Great. Okay, thank you. Yes, we briefly talked. Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. So I think it was just, I was just sorting by the stage, because we got to, okay, so let's go for, let's start with swap then. So I think the aim here is to get to do a beta 3 with the hopeful goal of getting to GA in 134. We have, it's going to become eviction aware in beta, and I think that's the biggest piece. Do we have any? I think that this is a medium priority. I think generally, I think for Red Hat it's a high one, but I think for the SIG it's probably medium. Do we have anyone who is willing to be an approver or reviewer on it?
Yuji and I can be the reviewer and approver. Yuji, sorry, volunteer. Put your name there.
Told. Great.
And just a reminder here that in the previous release, it was a high priority. So just throwing it in there if somebody thinks it should be high.
Yeah, I'm personally fine calling it high, but we have a lot of things to juggle. But
yeah, we have too many things to struggle. So it's unless I personally also want to put it high, but it's just personal feeling. But really, from the SIG Node community, I think medium should be fine, right? Look at all the other, yeah, it's medium. We treat that. How about that? We treat that high, but
sure.
It's a little
Works
bit personal. Yeah. Just we treat. I think we treat it's been like the reviewer and the author treat at high, but in the SIG Node, the standard is medium.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, ultimately it's, I think the priority is most important for your time, Don, and you and Yuju as approvers. So whatever you think you'll treat it as is probably what it will look like ultimately. Great. All right. We have, did we talk about this one? I feel like we moved this. I can't remember if we talked about it. The reject non-SMT aligned workload. Francesco is the author here. How do we feel about priority? And then
hey, so just a quick public service announcement. I would be fine with low, considering the scope and the fact was sitting uncontroversial so long, but we are piling up quite some cleanup, which are long due. I'm happy to take them into the content, the scope of this gap, but because of that, maybe we could be bumped to medium. I'm proposing. I'm not. I'm just throwing there for discussion.
Yeah, I think grouping it as low, though, knowing that there's also other pieces to it, I think is fine. I do think that the cleanups are important, and also
Fine.
maybe we keep the focus on the feature itself.
Fine for me. Thanks.
Does any approver want to take it?
Not me.
Great, thank you. Okay, parallel image pulls. I don't know, is this planning on making any progress? I don't think I put it in the milestone. Oh, Paco was interested in doing it in 133. I don't know if anyone is planning on working on it. I haven't heard anything about it. So maybe we leave it in triage and see if we're gonna do anything with it. Cool. In triage, recursive read-only mounts. I don't know. Hero has not mentioned anything for 133 yet. We do have now release versions with every, Containerd and Cryo both have release versions, so it's possible to move forward. But if we've not heard anything, I think we can.
We can leave a comment
Here.
on the issue and see.
All right. Cool. For decouple tape manager from node lifecycle controller. Yeah, Sail was removed from it. It seemed to have slipped 132, so this is another one where I'll reach out to the author and ask if they're planning on working on it. Deep action.
So there are two keps part of this one. This one I think might have gotten promoted to stable, or we reverted it real quick. Can you go to the description?
Oh, it does look like. Oh no, it was reverted. Yes.
So I think the kep was approved. We reverted it for some testing issues. Yeah.
All right. I will. Thank you for that context. I will again reach out to the author and ask if we're planning on making progress here. Great. C group driver from CRI. This is a low priority, but also we do have the opportunity to move it forward because Virginity 2.0 is out. I don't know. I was not personally planning on pushing it forward, though maybe I will just see. I don't know if Marcus, you were planning on anything. Oh, see Marcus. That's fine. I'll also follow up here. Topology manager policy for max allowable NUMA nodes.
I think we should move on because it's very, very simple and useful, but I will reach out and see if the contributor is okay to do that in the cycle. I didn't, my bad. I didn't yet, my bad.
Oh, that's okay. Great, thank you. And poke me on it if they do, and then we can put in the milestone.
Thank you.
Kevin?
I guess one thing, for some of these caps, like the PRR questionnaire is due on Thursday. I know that like we can get, I guess, SIG Node approver, but if we don't have that right now, I guess we need both.
Yeah,
but
I would say if the author wants it to be in 133, then I mean the PRR freeze is like a known time. If they slip it, then it slips. If anyone here feels sufficiently motivated to like open a KEP update or anything like that to put it on PRR's radar for any of these KEPs, they can feel free to do that if they're worried that the author might, not respond in time or something. But yeah, given the freeze is so soon, I think we just sort of let the cycle work as it does. But that is a good call out that anyone who is planning on having a KEP update does need to have the, does need to meet the PRR deadline, or should really, to make guarantee that it gets reviewed. Yes, Mark, are you here? Do you know if we're working on this? I feel like we might have talked about this last week. Host network.
I thought this was like, this is backed away from this one. I thought I merged up an announcement or one announcement for that.
Oh, yes. Withdrawal release type.
Yeah, there's a
so
withdrawal,
I think,
yeah.
okay, yep. Oh, so this is done. This is being tracked. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we have user namespaces in pods. I would like to do this, move this to on by default. Now that we have the API SKU considerations taken care of, there's also potentially a conversation about having a kubelet field to allow a variable amount of a UID range inside of a user namespace for pods, but that will be a kubelet field, so it'll be node level. So it won't require API or anything like that, or pod API review, that is. So I'm hoping this will be a fairly straightforward, just to toggle the feature gate field and maybe a little piece. I don't think it's terribly important, but I would like it to go in. Do we have any volunteers for approver reviewer?
Not me. I did the earlier versions.
Okay. Projected service account tokens for kubelet image. So this one, I think it got some of the way there. It was basically something that slipped from 132. And the author has been asking me to get someone from SIG Node to look at it. SIG auth has already approved it, so it's waiting on SIG Node approval to get API review. But when I was looking at it last release, it looked pretty good. I don't remember exactly why it slipped. I think we just didn't get the actual implementation in. And it also looks, so we actually already updated the milestone. So we've already actually made KEP freeze. We just need someone to take a look at the implementation. So if anyone wants to, lost it then. If anyone wants to take it as a approver or reviewer, then that will help that move along. I'll also give it a look-see.
You can put
okay,
me, but I may be almost at capacity.
Great, thank you. Okay. And CRI stats, folks from the Containerd community may be making progress on this. I actually don't know if it will make sense to make it into 133. I might do the or 132, sorry, or 133. Oh, why is it that? Okay, anyway, I have to update the paperwork there. But yeah, so Akil, who's working on the Containerd implementation of the metrics part, is working on it and seems to be wanted to move forward in 133. If it does, then most of the work that is needed is testing to do that bump once Containerd actually has those metrics in, because Cryo has support for it already. So it should be a low, the feature itself should not be a very high overhead for reviewing. Does anyone feel like looking at it?
I can help.
Great, thank you.
And I'm already helping, so yeah.
Yeah, yep, we're on it. Great, take a look. Oh, there we are. Awesome. checkpointing, we're looking to GA what is currently there. It seems to be the idea. And I don't believe anything else is being added to it. I think it's just GAing what we currently have. So another one that should be relatively.
Yeah, you're right. It's just to GA the current feature. No additional changes.
Awesome. Yeah. So that'll be a relatively straightforward one.
What's
I don't. Okay.
Sorry, what's the plan
Go
for
ahead.
us to make the enable this one, like because the last time we decided, right? So before this is node feature start, because it's really difficult to talk about. So do we have the plan to now go like the start talk about cluster level? How we utilize this even beyond like the node feature, like the built-in feature? Do we want to start that conversation?
I think so, yeah. I think we should start the API at the cluster level. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So so also add me as the approver. So then this is no, right? So but we need a start to make this more useful, and we need to move forward. Just think about
Yeah.
possibility API. Yeah.
I reached out to SIG API and SIG CLI to hear what they think about it.
I think maybe like we can do some design work here, propose a cap, I think, with what it looks like, and then take it from there, I guess. Not sure, like they'll propose the API, they'll more like they'll review it and see whether it's safe and whether it's done the right way.
Yeah.
Do you think, but that's not at all, is the graduation of this piece of it contingent on getting, yeah.
No, that's not
so
blocked.
A separate cap.
Yeah, that's the next phase.
Yeah.
Totally separate, and
Great.
we agree on this one like maybe more than a year ago, and at least that's what I proposed. So that's decouple. But I just think about for this feature, if we want things we want to GA, right? So make that more useful, we need to start to cluster level, and think about those things. Yeah.
I agree.
This is also just a heads up. This is one of the ones that are on Containerd. We merged the checkpoint, but not the restore. We're expecting.
Yeah, the Prio doesn't even have well, it does sort of. It's kind of, you need a couple of other tools to actually make restore work. So yeah, we need to also come to consensus on what the structure of the checkpointed archive is, so that we actually can restore each other's stuff.
Exactly.
Great. Okay, and finally, split L3 cache. So this one was, I think we talked about it a little bit, but Francesco, do you have anything to say about this one?
Yeah, I want to make some cleanups in this cycle, because before to move to beta, and we agreed last time, so staying alpha. So I would expect this to be low load, and so low priority, I think. But I would like to make some progress in this cycle.
You can put me as a reviewer.
All right, I will do that. Great. Back to alpha. Okay, awesome. So I think that's the list. I'm trying to remember. I feel like there were other ones that we didn't necessarily fully triage, but was there anything that folks who are on this call feel like we did not talk about? I did some asynchronous triaging also, so some of them may we may not have talked about them here. But if not, then it looks like we've done some of our triage. There are still a number of items that don't have approvers or reviewers that are lower priority, but for any of the reviewers or approvers who want to take those on, feel free to add yourself. We also we're beginning to assign the KEP wranglers for these. Probably won't actually do very much with the KEP wranglers until we have a finalized list. Maybe like whenever PRR freeze happens or anything like that, to make sure that we have everything all balanced. And yeah, so let's try to make this a productive KEP season. Given that, unless there's anything else, I will yield the floor. Siwon?
Hi, this is Siwon.
Yes.
So I mainly work on API machinery, and so I'm here to get some feedbacks and help regarding this idea of adding compatibility version to Node. So a little background. The compatibility version is something we introduced in control plane in the version 131. And what it does is, so if you can emulate the behavior of the control plane, if you set the emulation version to an older version, so all the features will be enabled and disabled based on the default and availability of that feature in that emulation version. So basically, if you're at 133, you can make your control plane work like 131. And this is an idea that is being discussed in the LTS working group. So it's possible to use this compatible version for long-term support. So basically, we don't really have to maintain all the versions up to 2 years. So if the user want to use a version from 2 years ago, they just have to upgrade to a supported version and set the emulation version to the older one. So what it means, in terms of developer experience, is a feature can only be cleaned up after 3 releases after it's GA and after it's being locked to default. So that means there's extra maintenance work. So you cannot clean up the code right after you GA the feature. So so that's the main burden this feature will incur for if you're working on SIG Node. And so I have basically looked up some recently GA feature in this spreadsheet and look at checked at the PR to clean up the feature. So there are a few large cleanup PRs, but most of them are not that bad. So what I want to ask is for all of you to maybe think about this idea, what it means for you, for your clean up your feature, how to maintain the old behavior of your feature, if you want to promote it, and see if you Node want to do this. So that's my proposal, and I think this in this meeting I just want to bring up the idea, and then in the future I would like you to provide feedbacks based on your experience, and then make a decision whether or not we want to move forward with this.
Yeah, thank you for presenting. I find myself wondering at this juncture, in a world, I don't think that we'll do this, but in a world where SIG Node is I don't want to carry these features 3 releases after GA, what would I guess I find myself wondering what even would the alternative be if this is something that the working group LTS is working on and like SIG Arch is sort of driving. Like, is there?
So the alternative for
any
if
really
you're not
alternative?
using a compatible version, then if we want to do the LTS, then we have to maintain like 6 versions of Kubernetes. That means extra maintenance work and extra testing cost. So the benefits of using compatible version is so you don't have to do like security patch for the up to 6 versions, and the CI integration, the CI test won't have to run on 6 branches.
Yeah, I find myself feeling the overhead of keeping the releases or the features around is acceptable. Like, I don't think that it's a huge burden having the feature be around. It would only need to be around, technically speaking, in the API code, right? Like the kubelet doesn't need to be emulating anything and could theoretically make itself not feature gate aware.
The kubelet will still have to keep the code that like switches if the feature is on and off.
Yeah, depend on feature. Some feature also have those switch inside the node, not just controller side. Yeah.
Right.
I wish the job easier for you in the long run, like the SIG architecture or whatever. We reach out the community consensus. This is built in the process. And after GA, blah, 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 those kind of things, we have the rule for certain times. But looks like we are still is not to reach consensus. So it's harder for people to they may forgot. I just want to say they may forgot the initial design, all those kind of things. So yeah. What do you expected, like the student? What do you expected those feature owner? And what's actionable for them?
The feature owner just need to like postpone their cleanup code, and maybe they will forget. But we have to. Yeah, I don't know how to handle the case when they forget to clean up the code if after it's 3 releases after GA. I guess we just have to maybe remind them.
Maybe we capture this in the kept milestones itself, so folks don't forget, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think about this could be part of the PR, right? So then they remind, and at least we can figure out to dig into.
Yeah, and also for reviewers, they have to keep in mind that if they see the cleanup code, then check the feature lifecycle and see if it meets the criteria. Okay. So do we have a consensus that this is doable, or we should wait for other people to take a look?
Are we supposed to retrofit this for things that are already merged, or this is something we start doing for new things?
I think this is something we'll start to do for new GA features. We don't retrofit. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So whatever I think we are planning to target GA for 133, we can keep that in mind.
Yeah. Cool. And I think that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Awesome. Thank you. The next person, this is just a review request. I don't know if this person is here. I also know what their name may be.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm Ritika, and I don't know if it was a good place to mention this issue. It was pending for a review for a while, and it is regarding adding event in the event list of what is shown in the kubectl describe code, that event section, where we can show the event when the container is restarted. So there is a use case where we need it to see exact moment when the first restart had happened. So, but we were waiting for someone to review it. So that's why I mentioned it here. I hope I can get some points from you all.
Yes. Yeah, I will review this as soon as possible after this meeting. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Quick and easy. Thank you, Don. And thank you, Ritika. Itamar, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. I have a bunch of points here, but I'll be quick about it. Don, I think it's mainly for you. So first of all, there's yet another PR to try to report swap capacity. Right now, it's in a field. So to remind, there were a couple of past PRs. There was a debate if it should be a condition or a field, and many people wanted it to be a field. So basically now I'm adding it as a field, but not as a resource name. So it's not as confusing as before, in the sense that it's clear that it cannot be requested directly. But on the other hand, it's added to the node status. I think it's a very simplistic, but I think it's a good approach moving forward. So yeah, that's the first thing. Also, I just wanted to mention that, as Peter said, our suggested roadmap is to graduate to beta 3 in the upcoming release, and then try to GA in 134. This is important because I really want to know if somebody has any requirement or concern for GA, that's the time to raise it up. I'll be more than happy to hear about it as advanced as possible. And another last thing is that there are two PRs that needs a review more than others. One of them is the swap-aware eviction, which I feel is very important for the beta 3 graduation. And another thing is the cap update. So in the cap update, there's also like the rationale for the swap-aware approach and all of that. So yeah, we can talk about it offline in the PR or here if you have anything to say about it. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks. For those the capacity, the only things I want to ask it is how we are going to report the usage. Are we going to change that one? Swap usage.
So I have another PR for showing the usage as part of kubectl top subcommands. I think it's a really good PR because it takes everything we already have and it parses it in a human readable way that's very nice to read. The thing is that the missing part there is the swap capacity. That's the only thing that is currently not being reported as part of the resource metrics. Endpoint only as part of the summary API, which demands like higher permissions. That's why it kind of blocks my PR. So if we merge this one and we have it in the status, then we will also have it in kubectl top commands. And I think, yeah, I think it gives the user like a really good way of understanding what's happening.
I'm a user. I'm enable of this kind of things, and then evict. There's the eviction manager and the trigger eviction, and the node enable a swap. How I'm going to understand everything? Because the top is gone, and because I'm debugging, and I just think about it, you shouldn't evict my work node. So do I have the enough data at the time when I debugging, I can trace him back? This the top.
So there.
Right, so that's the when this kind of show only available, the usage only available at the top, because I cannot always log top down all the time just for later debug purposes. This is kind of the things how do we have those information? So like I can trace back, and when my container is evicted because due to whatever usage, right? Memory on the node, memory pressure on the node, and the swap usage, all those kind of things. So I believe the decision is Wes' decision.
Do you think that, for example, kubelet logs are fine to debug this kind of stuff?
I think it's yes, okay, yeah.
Okay, great. So in the swap error eviction PR, I added like a bunch of logs over there with different levels of verbosity. So now we have a lot of kubelet logs. We have the summary API, we have the metric resource, we'll have the status reporting capacity, we'll have kubectl top, and I think that's pretty good.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, thank you for the summary. Was there any other thoughts on any of this direction? Awesome. Okay. Next up, Zeal with container log rotation.
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Yes. Let me. There you go.
So I raised a KP review request some time back. I think there had been a lot of discussion in the KP itself. So currently it has been put on a hold because for container logs, I think it is planning to be moved out of the kubelet. So there's a suggestion to have a discussion in a meeting. I just wanted to say that currently I have updated the KP a little bit, and instead of rotating logs on disk pressure, maybe we can do a split of the large file and do the container log rotation. I have raised a PR just for the understanding. I will put in the details, but it's just to understand what I'm proposing. If you folks can take a look, it'd be helpful. Also, how should I move forward with this?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we talked last week about this in this group, but I think when you were explaining your KEP, you were mentioning that you have applications that are logging a bunch and they're exceeding the log rotation maximum limits, and then eventually it's actually causing disk pressure. And then your KEP was to have the eviction manager kind of step in and rotate those logs separately. I was thinking that it feels like there's a lot of problems with the log management that we have, especially like I know I've seen issues where logs or the kubelet log rotation is not really able to keep up with applications that are logging a bunch. I mentioned like I've seen 3 or 4 different proposals to the Kubernetes log management in the last year or so, and I don't really know what our collective story is or like what we actually want to do for log management in kubelet, and if other people are running into problems like this, because it seems like people are running into issues.
Yes.
Like I know, at least from the Red Hat side, there was some discussions about, deferring logs to a separate service, which seems like the one issue from RCATs. They were kind of similar suggestion where they want to actually disable log rotation at kubelet altogether and let something else handle that. And I don't know. I'm guessing curious from other people supporting Kubernetes, like what have they found with the log rotations and like what we actually want to do about it.
Okay. So, but the current log rotation has issues. The KP, the updated KP tries to solve the existing issue a little bit. So if I can get a review on the KP, it would be helpful. Till the long-term solution is decided, I think the short-term could be a good solution.
Yeah, and I think in support of that approach also, like I feel like that's something we've done, like, you know, for you know, there's long been conversation about, like, you know, reworking the way that the different kubelet managers work, like CPU and topology and memory manager, but that hasn't, you know, sort of slowed us down from making incremental changes to the ones that exist, especially because like largely overhauling a feature is a huge sort of piece of work. So I'm personally in support of incrementally working on, you know, improving what we have while also thinking about what the future, like I do agree, Kevin, that it's a good idea to, and well done sort of correlating all of these different PRs or CAPs, but I do think it's also worth, you know, moving forward with some amount of incremental progress as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the reason why I was hesitant on this one to start off with is just I don't know like what guarantees we want from log rotations if applications are logging too fast for a kubelet to keep up. And like I worry that we would be playing whack-a-mole with a problem, which I think Harsh, or I can't pronounce his name, but when he did the parallel log workers, I don't think it actually solved his problem exactly either. And
we could consider two things. I mean, maybe we can have some kind of a quota, how much the time kubelet spends rotating logs for a container, and if we exceed that number of times, maybe we surface some alerts, so users or admins can see there's some misbehaving pod in terms of logs written. I think the other area will be IO throttling, which we haven't started exploring yet. Kind of ties, I think, ties to QoS quota stuff. But I think I agree with Peter that I'm not against like making incremental changes, though it'll be good to like maybe capture what you wrote, Kevin, and come up with some kind of evolving log management in kubelet story.
My only concern, and I normally always agree with incremental change, especially there's the production issue we heard, right? So my only concern here it is, I believe a lot of vendor, they already integrate with what we are doing so far today. So that behavior might have some implication to them. So that's kind of my only concern. At least for this the temporary solution, I need the loop of the, at least from Google perspective, right? So I my first reaction is, yeah, let's just do incremental fix. But then counter argument, I need to get agreement with the cloud logging team. I mean, people in charge about cloud logging from Google side. So that's kind of, I believe this is the same from other cloud providers, right? So that's kind of things. Yeah. That's only my concern. Yeah, to solve the problem for the user. That's but I need a loop of the, I believe other people have to look of the AKS, EKS, yeah, to make sure that integration don't have the one break because we change those things. But I also agree because we cannot catch up about those in a lot of cases, so it's already broken.
Zeal, I can take a look at your KEP again. I haven't read it since the eviction manager, but we can at least see what you proposed. And then I will see if I can I'll maybe start collating this into a tracking issue around our story around log management separate from this.
I was wondering because the logging issue used to be cause disk pressure to GKE at the earlier time, but I haven't. At least, please correct me, Yuji. I haven't heard this for last couple years, so that's why I'm wondering why there's the other offer have that problem and why GKE don't have that problem. So what's the integration different here? So that's also trigger me. I think about I know we need to review of the log management entirely, but we didn't prioritize this just because we hardly heard production inputs from those things. This is also struggle. But now I heard, right, so from today, I heard from other vendors, so that's triggered me. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, you could do a re-review on the KP and the code changes as well. If does not look good, I'm fine to close the KP, but please do take a look.
Yeah, Kevin is going to look into that.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess so. My biggest concern with the reason I'm like relying on disk pressure is like the eviction manager is not immediate either. And what I'm worried is probably going to happen is you are reaching disk pressure and then you rely on eviction, like the eviction manager is saying I have disk pressure. Well, I think you would just eventually keep keeping hitting your disk limits, and the eviction manager would no longer be able to actually step in.
Yeah,
so I don't know, like that's kind of where I don't have a great answer on the problem that you're seeing.
Yes, I agree about that. So the updated KP does not rely on the disk pressure at all. It will just look at the actual current file size and the set limit in the kubelet config.
Okay.
Basically, we check whether the active or the current log file exceeds the set limit or not. If it does exceed, the KP proposes to split that file and then do the rotation of the split file and make the split so that all the splits are within that size limit.
Okay, I guess I thought that's what the log management was doing. Like we have the log max size and the number of files, and I thought that's kind of what it was doing originally.
It does not, it does not do the split. So let's say if the set limit is 200 MB and the file size goes 1 GB, it just does the tar, but it does not split it into multiple files of size 200 MB. So
Okay, I will read your KEP and we'll,
yeah, thanks. That's it.
Great, thank you. All right, one more, Dixie. Is there enough time to talk about your thing?
Yeah, so Tim already brought this up in our conversations for in-place pod resize and pod level resources. So the plan, we were discussing the API changes, and the plan was to just propagate all the in-place pod resize related container level API fields to pod level. Now we had this question about the resize restart policy. We were thinking that maybe we could just support restart policy only at the container level to avoid confusion as to which one would be prioritized. But we wanted to see if there is any use case for Kata containers or any other runtimes or any other types of containers that would need pod level restart policy. So just brought this up to see if there are any concerns about not supporting pod level restart policy for pod level resources and in place pod resize. or any thoughts, or is it okay that we just support the restart policy at the container level as it is today, and then if it is needed for other containers later, we could just add a separate kep later?
Potentially it can be done later, but in overall, for VM-based runtimes, the pod level resources most probably will trigger a restart, or should trigger a restart.
Right. Yeah, that's what we were thinking, that if pod level resize occurs, it would require the hypervisor would require the VM to restart, right? So it might be worth adding the pod level restart policy, but is it okay if we just add it later, or should we add it right now? I also see Tim Mollclair has his hand up. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little more context for the non-VM runtime use case. What we were discussing is if you have container level resources, resource requirements specified. So take memory limit as a common example, like Java runtimes. If you resize the memory limit, you need to restart the container. If you have a container level limit set and you resize the pod level limit, the container is still going to be effectively using the container level limit, so it doesn't need to be restarted. If you have a container that doesn't have a container level limit set, but you do have a pod level limit, and you resize that pod level limit, now you need to restart the container. And so that's the idea of using the container restart policy when resizing pod level resources. If we throw in a pod level restart policy as well, then it gets really confusing on, when you're resizing the pod level resources, is that restart policy applied at the container level or at the pod sandbox level or both? I'm worried that I think we need to kind of spell out all those different restart modes in a lot more detail.
Well, in case of VM-based, it's pod level, so sandbox restart. So we need to recreate it completely.
Yeah, I guess it could be confusing as to when the pod level resize policy is, affects the sandbox and when it affects the containers. I guess I'm in favor of adding this, of holding off on this and saying, this is a kind of more advanced use case. We can kind of add it in later.
Yeah, I think it deserves a separate discussion, and probably we need to bring a bit more people from Kata.
Agree.
Yeah. So could we also post in Kata? I mean, this description of the problem to get the input from them in Teams, in their Kata Teams, or?
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll take care of it. But is there a consensus on that, on not supporting pod level restart policy for now, and then eventually add the support for it later?
I agree. Password.
Okay, sounds good. I'll take an action item for asking this question in the Carter community as well.
Just make sure what during API review what we have a chance to add it later if needed.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Tim, for bringing this up. That's all from my end.
Awesome. And that is the end of our agenda and also the end of our meeting. So perfect timing. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks.
See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you.